do you think the public would describe you in 3 words? Massive Hi guys, my name's James Skeet. I'm a Just Stop Oil protester, and today I'm having a look through your big black box to answer some of your adoring fan mail. So let's have a look. What oil do you cook with? So, contrary to popular belief, Just Stop Oil has no problem with cooking oil. Cooking oil is quite different to petroleum oil and the kind of oil that we're sort of talking about. But yeah, I'll cook with any and all kind of oil. My personal recommendation is roasting roast potatoes in coconut oil. Banging. What glue do you use to stick yourself to roads? How do you unstick? We've used various glues. There was like this ultra stick stuff that was like super, super strong. But unfortunately, if it mixes with fabric, it causes burns. So we had like some major problems with that. So we switched to a slightly less dangerous glue. You can unstick yourself with acetone if need be. However, due to sort of changes in the law over the last year, we haven't really done much in the way of road blocking. Like the consequences for like gluing on and locking on now are like pretty severe. So we tend not to do much of that at the moment.
Is that the new Protest Act?
That is the Public Order Act. The Public Order Act was written with the aid of the Policy Exchange. The Policy Exchange is in part funded by ExxonMobil. So we literally have oil companies writing the laws that are being used to take away all of our rights to speak out about what's happening. Great. What if someone dies in an ambulance you've blocked? Don't you feel guilty? Yes. Incredibly. In a sort of roadblock situation, one thing that you probably won't necessarily be aware is that there will always be an ambulance lane factored in. So there'll be people that aren't glued in that sort of situation in order to let emergency vehicles through. But that's not to diminish the fact that there is potential harmful consequences about stepping out on the road. So to my knowledge, no one's ever been hurt by a Just Stop Oil action. And out of hundreds and hundreds of roadblocks and marches, that's pretty good going. I suppose like the difficulty that most people have in kind of understanding it is the fact that what we're looking at is kind of like one step removed from what's happening on the road. Because in effect, what's happening on the road gets you in the news, which starts a discourse in the wider society. And that's where the political pressure comes about. And that's where you get the societal change. Do I feel good about disrupting people? Absolutely not. Is it the right thing to do in 2023? I think on balance, yes, it is. What is the biggest myth about Just Stop Oil? I suppose the biggest myth about Just Stop Oil is that the aim of Just Stop Oil is to end all oil and gas, which isn't the case. What Just Stop Oil is demanding is no new licenses or consents for fossil fuel exploration in the UK, which is like a really mainstream position. What we need to do is start transitioning away from oil and gas onto the clean, green renewables of the future.
So why is it called Just Stop Oil then?
One thing that you sort of see in the sort of political landscape over the last several years is like very complicated geopolitical sort of situations being sort of reduced down to like 3-word slogans or like, you know, a few word slogans like make America great again or get Brexit done or that sort of thing. And I think it's kind of to tap into that very simple message. The fact is that if we can get Just Stop Oil in the media, then that's an idea that we're sort of forcing right to the forefront of the public consciousness. And we've been highly successful with that. You know, we've forced this issue onto the front of the tabloids. You know, the Daily Mirror in recent months did a front page spread on new oil licenses entitled Just Stop Sunak. There's no way that that would have happened before Just Stop Oil. Why do you target football matches people have paid hard-earned money to enjoy? I think that it's important to recognise that we take the actions that we do not because we like hate football or hate like tennis or anything like that. We're doing it because we love those things and we want them to continue. We've had 61,000 excess deaths last year due to extreme heat. You know, tens of thousands of people were washed out to sea in Libya. Southern Europe's been on fire. Canada's been on fire. You know, we are looking at the most critical point in human history. In the grand scheme of things, some short-term disruption to some sporting events is kind of justified given what we're looking at. It's important to recognize that every social movement throughout history has been wildly unpopular in their time. Let's bear in mind that disruptive action has brought us many of the things that we take for granted, brought us livable working conditions, a weekend, universal suffrage, civil rights, gay rights, anti-apartheid, the list goes on and on and on. The fact is that once sort of the dust settles around the general controversies around disruptive action, society tends to look back and go, oh, that was justified. What's the worst case scenario if Just Stop Oil fails? Good question. We are at the most critical juncture in human history, like no hyperbole. We are looking at sustained crop failure brought about through extreme weather events and climatological destabilization. As a result of that, we are looking at potential civil unrest and societal collapse like within our lifetimes. And I think it's kind of on all of us to be considering what we want to be doing with our lives at this time, at this most critical juncture. Are we actually going to sit here and watch as like everything we care about goes to shit? Or are we actually going to do something about it? Do you have to be vegan to join Just Stop Oil? No. A lot of people in Just Stop Oil are vegan. And certainly if you were looking at ways to reduce your impact on the environment, going vegan is one of the best ways of doing that. So stopping flying. I will say that we're all kind of hypocrites in this society. And realistically, the things that kind of we can do on an individual level is obviously important, but it is kind of microscopic in the grand scheme of things when you've got a government that's licensing new oil fields, for example, Rosebank, that's going to emit more than 28 whole countries combined. So really we have to be looking at things on a systemic level if we actually want to be making significant progress on the climate crisis. But obviously it's cool if people want to make personal lifestyle choices to reduce their impact. How do you think the public would describe you in 3 words? Massive.
Do you think that's a fair representation of you?
It's not what I would go for, but that's if we were to do a poll, I think that's probably what the general sentiment would be. Have you been arrested while protesting? Yes, I've been arrested many times. I've been arrested 13 times. I actually ended up in Belmarsh prison for a bit. Mostly I've been charged with things like aggravated trespass, highway obstruction, various things like that, basically.
What would you say if someone called you a criminal?
Obviously, I don't think I'm a criminal. I think that the people running the country are criminals. Is the government Yes. Would you die for your cause? Yeah, I guess so. If I knew that my death was going to have like some positive impact in future decades, then yeah, I guess I would. Don't you waste police time and citizen money when you protest? Arguably, yes. So you might have seen recently that the Metropolitan Police put a thing out on Twitter saying that we cost them 20 million quid. Now, just to put that in context, we, the taxpayer, are paying £230 million every week to the fossil fuel industry in the form of subsidies. So let's just get that in perspective a little bit. Now, in terms of like wasting police time, yeah, I'm not happy about it, and there's definitely better things that the police should be doing, namely going after the real criminals. We actually sent them a dossier of information detailing the crimes of various climate criminals, and they have failed to investigate that. I would say target the real criminals, and then we won't have to be on the road. Do you get paid by Just Stop Oil? I do, yeah. Some members of Just Stop Oil do get a small stipend to kind of look after general living expenses. It's kind of like any other organisation where you've got to have a certain number of people on staff to kind of keep things ticking along. But an awful lot of people who get involved with Just Stop Oil are volunteers and dedicate a lot of their spare time into keeping the organisation running. Why the art? Why? Good question. Art actually has a long history of being involved in disruptive protests. You're probably aware of how the suffragettes slashed a bunch of paintings. The key thing is that art is like a cultural artifact, and it's the sort of thing that we all deeply care about as a culture. And if we can kind of give that sort of shock value of like, hey, here's something that we all really care about, and here's the feeling of like, oh, it's in jeopardy, then that's kind of indicative of like where we're at in like our wider society. Like literally everything we care about is in jeopardy. Like all of our cultural institutions, all of our artwork, you know, if we can use that artwork to draw attention to that issue, then I think it's a worthwhile utilization of, you know, of what are really important cultural artifacts. Oh my God. Snog, marry, avoid, Rishi Sunak, Piers Morgan, Elon Musk. There's no kicking the balls option on this. Right, okay. As much as it pains me, I'm going to snog Elon Musk because he's got some cool rockets. You know, fair's fair. Well, I guess I'll marry Rishi Sunak because he's got enough money, right? And avoid and / kicking the balls, Piers Morgan. Do you have children? And if not, would you? In all honesty, I don't think I would. Knowing what's going to happen in the coming decades and knowing how potentially difficult it could be, I don't want to care about someone that much to the point that it's like that I'm that worried about them. I don't know how parents today like are coping, really, thinking about what the future holds for their children. I think it's important that some people kind of remain a bit more sort of free to do this kind of work, really. Like doing the kind of work that I do is like unstable, very intense, very dangerous. I could end up in prison. I don't think it would be fair to like bring another person into that equation. It would prohibit me from doing the work that I'm doing, and I think the work that I'm doing is quite important. How could you get the same media coverage without disruptive action? Good question. If we knew that, we would do it. But the fact is that I wouldn't be on here talking to you guys if we hadn't engaged in disruptive action. So there's two strands to civil resistance. The first is disruption, and then there's dialogue. Basically, we a load of people off, and it starts a wider conversation in society. And as a result of that, that brings about some sort of change in the sort of political landscape.
So farts in space, basically in weightlessness, hot air doesn't rise. So the good thing is you probably won't smell your own fart because by the time you've done it, it's already been taken away by the air conditioning system.